morning and welcome to the Universalist Unitarian Church of Mendon and Upton. Today we are doing a flower communion and Reverend Patricia Hatch will be offering our sermon. And our first song today is going to be the Butterfly Waltz. What better to start a flower communion with the butterfly, which pollinates all of our flowers.
Good morning again, and welcome to the Unitarian Congregation of Mendon and Uxbridge. We're so glad to be with all of you this morning, those who are here in person and those who are joining online. Our opening words are by Alice Berry. Children of the earth and sky, we are nurtured, sustained, given warmth and light from above and below. Supported by the earth's strong crust, we build our homes, till the fields, plant our gardens and orchards. When we turn from self and seek to be aware, we will find holy light in human faces, in blossoms, in birdsong, and in the sky. The earth is truly our home, and we are one with all of earth's creatures, parents of earth's children, yet to be. And the chalice lighting words are by Kimberly Ann Tomzek Carlson. Recognizing the beauty around us and within us, in voice and spirit, we gather to light our chalice. May we savor the beauty of our abundance and diversity, always cherishing one another and our earth. May we remember to inhale the lushness in life, knowing that we are a people of beauty. Caught on. Please join me in saying the unison affirmation of the congregation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. And we will have candles of joy and concern later in the service. Folks that are here present will be invited to light their own candles, and if you are online and have a joy or concern, you can please write them in the online chat or on the contact form on the webpage, and we'll light a candle for those things as well. Please join me for opening hymn number 66, when the summer sun is shining. You may rise in body or spirit. You may be seated. The story today is called One Flower in a Field, adapted from Joshua Sear White. Once there was a field with dry grass, many flowers, and a stream nearby. There were buttercups and tulips, coneflowers and lupines, all kinds of beautiful flowers in the field. The field was very dry, so how could these flowers grow when the field was parched? Well, next to each flower was a hole in the ground, and in each hole lived an animal whose job was to tend that particular flower. There were rabbits, hedgehogs, field mice, and even a badger or two. Every morning, each animal would come out of its hole, hop or scurry down to the stream, and use a leaf to scoop up water. Then they would carry their leaves back and water their flowers. A rabbit lived in this field next to her buttercup. Every day, she would go down to the stream with her leaf and collect water for her buttercup. She loved that flower, and she took very good care of it. It was a bright, healthy, and strong buttercup. One afternoon, the rabbit decided to hop up to the top of a little hill nearby and look out and see what she could see. And she saw a flower there that she had never seen before. It might have been a daisy, but it was hard to tell. This flower looked like it was in bad shape. This flower needed water. Its stem was bent, its petals were wilting in the heat, and the ground around it was parched and dry. The rabbit felt bad that a flower could be so neglected. And then she did nothing. Even though the flower looked terrible, it was just one flower after all. The field had plenty of other flowers that were doing fine. And the rabbit felt she had enough work to do, watering and taking care of her own flower. So she went around her days, watering her flower in the morning and hopping around all afternoon. But she couldn't forget that other flower, that probably daisy, that she had found. The rabbit couldn't help but peek at the other flower. Every day, she would go up the hill and look at the other flower, and every day the flower looked a little worse. It started to get to her. The rabbit thought about that poor daisy every night. She thought about it in the morning. She couldn't even enjoy her own buttercup as much, knowing the other flower was wilting more and more every day. Now you may wonder, why didn't that rabbit just go over and water the other flower? It was not far away, and the rabbit had plenty of time to hop around and do other things. But instead of taking action, the rabbit just thought about the flower all the time. She would think about going to go get water for the flower, but then she'd think to herself, I shouldn't just march into someone else's space and water their flower. They might yell at me. Or she'd think, what if the flower likes being dried up and droopy? Maybe that's possible. Maybe the flower likes being so dry and going to die soon. She made lots of excuses. But it kept bothering the rabbit, especially at night. Sometimes she wished the flower would just get better by itself, or at least die so she could stop thinking about it. But every time she sneaked a peek, the flower was looking more dry and more droopy. Finally, the rabbit could stand it no longer. One morning, hopping from the stream with a leaf full of water for her buttercup, she suddenly thought, it's not right. Flowers are not supposed to wilt like that. Flowers should be nourished and taken care of. And then she found herself hopping up the hill toward the other flower, taking the water there instead. At the top of the hill, the rabbit's nose twitched as she was a bit nervous. She thought, I might get in trouble with the other animal. I shouldn't be watering other animals' flowers. But she kept on going to where the flower was. And when she got to the flower, suddenly a hedgehog appeared and yelled, Hey, what are you doing? I'm going to water this flower, the rabbit said. It's too dry, and if it doesn't get water, it will die. The hedgehog said, This is my flower. I'll take care of it how I want. Go home and water your own flower. The rabbit answered, I'm sorry, but I tried that. Flowers need water. So she watered that drooping daisy right there in front of the hedgehog, although he mumbled and gave her mean looks the whole time. And then the rabbit hopped home. The next day, she came back with another leaf full of water and watered the daisy again. And she started doing that every day, watering the flower. The hedgehog continued to fuss and mumble, but the flower started to look better. First, its petals perked up, its stem began to stand up a little taller, and its colors started to look brighter. Strangely enough, as this flower got healthier and more beautiful, so did the rabbit's own flower, and so did every other flower in the field. All the flowers looked brighter, and all the flowers stretched taller. It seemed as if they were all receiving more water. The whole field became even more vibrant. How could that be? Were other animals sneaking around and watering neighboring flowers too? Or was it because when someone waters a wilting flower somewhere, all the flowers everywhere grow a little brighter? Who knows? Let's try it and see. We will now have the call for the offering and the offertory. These words are from the UUSLO worship script. We are this church. We are its hands, its heart, its voice. Together we share the wealth of this community and sustain it with our gifts. And thank you for giving of your time, your talent, your energy, and your treasure. The offering will now be received. And for those who are online, there will be a PayPal link in the chat. Thank you for your generosity.
Our offertory song today is Edelweiss by Rogers and Hammerstein. And many of us might not think about this, but Edelweiss is a flower. And that's what the song's about, that grows in the mountains.
Thank you, Leah. I'd now like to invite you into a time of meditation. I'll start with reading a poem, and then I will play my singing bowl, and then Leah will play Spirit of Life. Let's begin by taking a few deep breaths together. The poem is entitled Lilacs by Ted E. Tollefson. The lilac season is over for this year, but lilacs are such a beautiful and fragrant flower. I wanted to share this poem with you. Thank you, Ted, if you're listening. Lilacs are painting the air again. The young ones, still tight-closed fists, favor a deep purple and withhold their scent. Next come shades of lavender and sometimes white or pink as they open their hearts to sun and moon and give their aroma to spring winds. A few of the lucky ones are gathered by tender hands to become bouquets or lavender jam or fragrant infusions of spring wine. Someday rust will come, and they will fall to the dark earth near bushes with heart-shaped leaves that gave them life. But their perfume will linger for a few hours or days or even weeks, finding their place in a vessel where love and memory are entwined. Amen. The Affirmation of Flowers is the title of my sermon today. My favorite place to go in Western Mass is a town called Shelburne Falls. Maybe a few of you have been there before. And one of my favorite things to do in Shelburne is to visit the Bridge of Flowers. The Bridge of Flowers is a converted trolley bridge that crosses over the Deerfield River. The bridge has been taken over by hundreds of blooms with different kinds of plants, flowering from spring through fall. In fact, there are 500 different varieties of flowers, vines, and shrubs on the bridge. It has a lovely walkway that runs through the middle of the gardens on either side that span the length of the bridge over the beautiful river with the hills and trees and Western Mass in the background. I've taken more pictures of that than anything else in my life besides my children, I think. Iris Murdoch said, "People from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy the whole time to have such things about us." Flowers are relative newcomers to the earth. Millions of years ago, when dinosaurs roamed the land, there were ferns, fungi, and dull plants that reproduced by spores. There were no flowers. There were no roses or lilacs or sunflowers or violets or marigolds or buttercups or anything like them. However, about 100 million years ago, something incredible happened. Plants learned how to reproduce through seeds. Unlike the spores that preceded them, seeds were actually tiny organisms already prepackaged with nutrition. These angiosperms being the flowering plants that produce seeds, flowers, and fruits, made possible the evolution of birds and mammals who could eat the seeds and grasses and eventually the fruits. The earth was reborn. Instead of simply ferns and dull-looking spore-producing plants, the earth developed an amazing and beautiful diversity of life. Gary Kowalski noted these changes in his flower power sermon, and he also says the slow-moving dinosaurs gave way, replaced by creatures who were not only quick, but also quick-witted, warm-blooded and warm-hearted, sensitive and tender, as bright and agile mentally as flowers were brilliant in all their purples and yellows and blues and crimsons. The world was truly reborn. It's an amazing story if we stop to think about it, the beginnings of life on this planet. And there were no flowers, no brilliant colors, and then there were. When we understand how deeply our lives are dependent on the evolution of flowers and all of the evolution, it makes sense how we use flowers to communicate human emotions. And then, of course, flowers are beautiful, so they make fitting gifts. People use flowers to express all kinds of deep feelings: love, romance, affection, gratitude, sympathy, remorse, wishes for healing and well-being, and congratulations. Flowers are used in religious services of various types and traditions, and are also very common at weddings, funerals, and memorial services. Many people give their sweethearts flowers on Valentine's Day and anniversaries, and many people give their mothers flowers on Mother's Day or on her birthday. History and mythology from around the ancient world in places as diverse as Greece, Rome, China, Egypt, and other places reveal that flowers were an important part of social customs for thousands of years. I can't think of a more universal gift than flowers. And of course, flowers are a tangible manifestation of hope and renewal every spring. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "The earth laughs in flowers." In 1923, the minister Norbert Čapek decided his congregation in Prague needed a new ritual to celebrate their community, to celebrate beauty and unity in diversity. And the Christian communion ritual wouldn't work for his very diverse congregation. So he looked to the natural world, and he created a flower ceremony. Back in 1923, so that was almost 100 years ago, he asked his parishioners to each bring a flower to church and put it in a vase. The uniqueness of the flowers would symbolize the uniqueness of the individuals in the congregation. And when together, the blooms would celebrate the diverse and yet united beauty of his parish. Following the service, each person would take a different flower home than the one they brought. It was a lovely ceremony. It was well received. Unfortunately, after the Nazis came into power, things took a turn for the worse for the Čapeks. The Munich Agreement gave over portions of Czechoslovakia to Germany, and the Nazis marched into Prague and occupied it. And the Gestapo arrested Norbert and his youngest daughter Zora in 1941 for the crime of listening to foreign radio broadcasts. They were actually transcribing these to share hope with other folks, probably folks in their congregation, to know that they had allies, that there was hope, and that was his crime, that he listened to foreign radio broadcasts. And he didn't just receive a small punishment either. He was sent to Dachau, the concentration camp. He was tortured and executed in a gas chamber in 1942. At Dachau, though, as a minister, he continued to write and preach and give comfort and care to his fellow prisoners. Survivors of the camp would later testify that Norbert could not have been sent to a place where he was more needed. And at the end of his life, he wrote for his daughter this quote. He wrote, "It is worthwhile to live and fight courageously for sacred ideals." The Nazis are gone, but the flower ceremony lives on in hundreds of Unitarian Universalist congregations around the globe. It was a meaningful ceremony when Norbert Čapek created it, and it is even more meaningful, I think, when we consider how Norbert's sacred ideals of love and unity in diversity do triumph over hate. His sacred ideals of love and unity and diversity do triumph over hate. Sometimes it takes a long time, but not as long as the evolution of flowers. Norbert's wife, Maya, brought the flower ceremony to America, first to the UU Church in Cambridge, and from there the ceremony spread like wildflower. Or should I say it spread more like seeds in the wind. Maya wrote, "No two flowers are alike, not two people are alike, yet each has a contribution to make. Each would help to make this world as beautiful as a colorful bouquet. Organized and growing into a true community, we are ready to serve one another, the nation, and the world. By exchanging flowers, we signify that we are willing, in the spirit of tolerance and patience, to march together in search of truth, disregarding all that usually divides humankind." Let us consider how humans are like flowers. It is easy to see how flowers and people are extremely different living beings. However, one big difference is that flowers don't have egos. Flowers don't complain. Flowers don't compare. Flowers don't worry. Flowers don't judge. Flowers don't condemn. While we can truly celebrate our inherent beauty and goodness, there are also always ways we can improve and become more heart-centered and less ego-driven. How are we like flowers? We are fragile. We need to treat ourselves and others with care. We thrive when our needs are met. We are resilient. We are tenacious. We are persistent. Like flowers, we naturally go with the rhythm of days and nights and seasons in our world. Although some of us may close up at night like dandelions, and others of us may open up at night like moonflowers. We all have common rhythms, and we all have our own personal rhythms. And we each have vitality. And we have the knowledge that we are only here for a short time, like flowers, in the overall scheme of things. We each unfold and bloom in our own way. Each person is uniquely beautiful, and we have beauty in all our life stages, from an unborn child through a childhood, adolescence, young adulthood, mature adulthood, old age. Each stage is beautiful. And we also grow toward the light. I remember when I was a little girl, my mother had a coleus plant, and I learned that this plant became more bright when it was exposed to more sun. I thought that was amazing. It was just a simple fact that some of us take for granted now, but I thought that was really amazing as a little girl, that this plant was pale when it was in the shade and bright and brilliant when it was in the sun. As you may know, this plant has leaves that the middle part of the leaves turn a bright shade of pink or red, the coleus plant. We also grow toward the light, and when we let more light into our hearts, we also shine more brightly. We actually have a lot in common with flowers. And as a community, we can take inspiration from companion plants who thrive much better when they work together with their neighbors. These companion plants work together for maximum thriving. The colors and textures in a bouquet complement one another. And our diversity in the community actually makes us more beautiful together. There are more kinds of diversity than those we usually think of. We might think of diversity of gender, race, ethnicity, age, sexual orientation, class. However, our congregation, like all congregations, has people with a diversity of life experiences, beliefs, passions, careers, hobbies, strengths, and so much more. Among us, we have more in common than we know, and also more diversity than we know. It is an ongoing process in community to discover the things we have in common and the ways we can best complement each other with our differences and work together like companion plants. We are beautiful and magnificent in our shared diversity. I want to close this sermon with sharing some affirmations with you that are inspired by flowers and are also true of you. You are resilient. You are beautiful. You are strong. You reach for the light. You are powerful. You are radiant. You make a difference in the world. You are abundant. You are magnificent. You are connected to all that there is. You are part of the amazing bouquet of life. Enjoy and celebrate. Amen, and blessed be. I have two announcements this morning. The first is that we'll be continuing to collect food donations, food and bottles of water for the Milford Community Meals Program. They're especially looking for bottles of water in the summer, and they also appreciate things like cans of soup and chili and pasta, breakfast items, and things like that they can give out to folks in the wider Milford community who have food insecurity. It's a joint effort from about 6 different congregations, and we're happy to be part of that. Peter had a great idea. Why should we have to bring the donations into church when some of us don't have keys? So we invite you to leave the donations outside the door that goes near Goss Hall. And then someone who has a key, either I will or a member of the property committee, can bring those inside when we come here. And then I can bring them over to the church in Milford that's collecting the donations. So we'll be doing that as an ongoing basis throughout the summer. So we appreciate those who are able to donate to help our neighbors. And then I wanted to share about the summer plan with all of you. Some of you know. But this is the last official service of the church year. After this, we will mostly have informal summer services in Goss Hall. So I will lead some of those. Leslie will lead some. Maybe another lay leader will lead some. Every Sunday morning, same time, we will be in Goss Hall and either sit around the table or sit in a circle, and we will bring, whoever's leading the service will bring a reading or a poem and a topic, and we will discuss that, as well as checking in and having some delicious refreshments. So those will be most Sundays during the summer. There will be no service next week for the July 4th holiday. But all the other Sundays this summer, we will have some kind of service. And the other 2 special services we're doing as a joint effort with the Hopedale Unitarian Parish. On August 1st, we will be doing a service here at the Mendon Church. I will be leading it. Matt will be playing. And we will invite our neighbors from the Hopedale Unitarian Parish. I'm not sure if this will be in the sanctuary or outside. I think it's weather dependent. But August 1st, put that in your calendar. We want to have a good turnout for that week and meet some of our neighbors and have a good time together. And they are going to return the favor on August 22nd. The Hopedale Unitarian Parish is inviting our congregation to join with them. And the minister there, Reverend Steve Cook, will lead that service. So those are the 2 special joint services this summer. The first Sunday in September, we will start back with regular worship in the sanctuary. I believe that's September 5th. And then we will have the bigger in-gathering ceremony and service, which will be a water communion service on September 12th. And there will also be a welcome back picnic that weekend. So if you're on my email list, you'll get the details for that coming up later this summer. But again, the first Sunday back for the official service is September 5th, and the in-gathering service, water communion, is September 12th. And the water communion, if you're not familiar with it, people will be invited to bring a small bottle of water from a place that they visited during the summer, or something concerning water that's meaningful to them, and we can share and put it in a common bowl, kind of like we're doing the flower communion, only people won't necessarily take the water back home with them afterwards. And we will have a pitcher of water here for people who didn't bring water or it was inconvenient to get water. And so you can still come up and share about your water adventures or water travel or sacred water in your lives, even if you don't bring water. Those are all my announcements. Is there anyone else who has any announcements? And again, I want to thank everybody for all your work on the Strawberry Festival. It was a great success in multiple ways. So thank you so much for that. I look forward to doing that with all of you again next year. And now we will have candles of joy and concern. Is there anyone present who would like to light a candle this morning? There's a microphone.
So I have 2 candles of joy today, and one is that I'm going to visit my grandmother, leaving tomorrow actually, and the other is that if all of our planning goes correctly and such, my friend Sedef will hopefully get to come out here and visit later this summer, so hopefully maybe some of you will get to meet her.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hal. Have a wonderful trip to Wisconsin as well.
well, I'm going to cheat. These aren't really, well, they could be a joys of candle concern, but they're reactions to the sermon. So just the first candle, nature. And flowers, you know, take care of a flower. Well, I went down to Slater Mill yesterday, and there was ducks in the, and the guy who was there every day taking care of it is worried because there are two little ducklings. There's another duck sitting on a nest taking care of her batch, and he said, well, this mother must be an orphan, and she's taking care of them. And I'm saying, okay, maybe, but she's sitting on hers, and is she teaching the other two orphans how to dabble? Yes, because when she goes to eat, dabble, but her job is with her nest. Did the blue heron take those little ones? Yes, probably. Should he be doing anything to try to protect them? What I've been told, you leave animals alone. You don't try to take them. If the baby falls out of the nest, you think you're doing the good thing by putting it up in the nest, well, your smell, the mom's going to abandon it. So wild animals, you let them alone. Flowers. If I had a smartphone, I would have searched what is the national flower of America. Because I know Edelweiss is the national flower of Switzerland. And all I know is the sound of music. that small little humble flower stood up to the Nazis, and Switzerland could take pride in that humble little white thing. And if I had to choose a national flower for America, I don't know. The rose because it's so grand. The lilac because it's beautiful and keeps coming. Well, do they grow lilacs in Texas? So if I had to vote, maybe the simple daisy, right? You don't have to tend it, keeps coming, and it's native and not invasive. So thanks to nature for providing all we need.
Thank you, Peter. I'll remember that. Maybe daisy can at least be unofficially our country's flower. Is there anyone else who would like to light a candle this morning? Well, I have a candle of joy from Norma Allard. You might remember this has been a rough year for her, that her son Brian passed earlier this year. So I've already lit a candle for that, but we'll continue to think about Norma. I think she wants to have a service here for Brian over the summer. But this is a candle of joy this morning because this is new news that she has a new great-grandson. So her son Butch had a grandson this past week, and the little boy's name is Landon. So what a joy for this family to welcome a new family member. And I will light this candle for the congregation. It's been a wonderful year serving you all and getting to know you all. And I really do think you're amazing, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So with thanks and joy for this congregation and its long, rich history, and may it live on for centuries more. I look forward to continuing with you this summer and next year. And then I always like to light a candle for all those things that remain unspoken in our hearts and minds. We all carry many things, celebrations and joys and sorrows and concerns for ourselves, for others we know, for gratitude, for things that are newly emerging in our lives, for all those unspoken things. We will now celebrate the flower communion. So this is an annual tradition in many congregations. I understand it hasn't happened for a handful of years here, so I'm happy we can do this again. We'll start with having a responsive reading called The Flower Communion Blessing by Andy Zucker Morgenstern, slightly adapted. So I will read a line, and then I invite us all to read a line together. Each of us is a flower with delicate beauty uniquely our own. We may be like sunflowers, turning always toward the light. May our lives bloom like flowers. We may be like night-blooming cereus, only displaying our fragrant petals when it is dark and we think no one can see. May our lives bloom like flowers. We may be hothouse flowers, far from our native lands, cautiously tended within a harsh and unfamiliar climate. May our lives bloom like flowers. We may be gray-headed like dandelions, eager to launch the new generation with the first strong gust of wind, past our own bright youth, but ready to pass our wisdom on in precious gossamer-carried seeds. May our lives bloom like flowers. Some of us sometimes spring up overnight and fade in the hot glare. May our lives bloom like flowers. Some of us sometimes are roses, slowly assembling petal after tight-wrapped petal and revealing our full glory only when everything is in place. May our lives bloom like flowers. Sometimes we are like roadside weeds, loveliness bursting improbably from the dust and debris. May our lives bloom like flowers. May we offer our beauty with the simplicity of flowers, expecting no recognition, giving out of what we are, and knowing it is enough. May our lives bloom like flowers. Amen. And then for the flower dedication prayer, I actually am going to pray the prayer that was created by Norbert Čapek for this flower ceremony. Are the flowers visible on the screen for folks? Okay, great. So this is the original flower blessing, and we'll bless the flowers with it today. Infinite Spirit of life, we ask thy blessing on these, thy messengers of fellowship and love. May they remind us, amid diversities of knowledge and gifts, to be one in desire and affection and devotion to thy holy will. May they also remind us of the value of comradeship, of doing and sharing alike. May we cherish friendship as one of thy most precious gifts. May we not let awareness of another's talents discourage us or sully our relationship, but may we realize that whatever we can do, great or small, the efforts of all of us are needed to do thy work in this world. Amen. So I'd like to invite each of you to come forward as Leah plays the flower duet, to come forward and select a flower or two that is different than the one you brought, and we'll bring that home with you today. So I just invite you to come up and select your flower or two and enjoy the music. Thank you. And now we will have a brief flower meditation by Gary Kowalski. Take a moment now to contemplate your flower. Notice it has a center, a focal point from which everything radiates. Ask yourself where your own center lies. Flowers stretch up toward the life-giving sun. Ask yourself, toward what lofty aim does your own soul aspire? Flowers have roots hugging the earth. Ask yourself, where do you draw your own strength and nourishment? As we go forth this day, may we grow in beauty, in light, and in cheer and joy, and share our gifts as freely as these pleasant flowers bloom. The extinguishing the chalice words are by Deborah Burrell. We have basked in the warmth and beauty of this flame and this community. As the chalice light is extinguished, let us carry its glow within. Let us kindle new sparks within these walls and beyond. We will now have the Serenity Prayer. We are not doing the benediction that is listed in order of service. We will say the Serenity Prayer together, and then I have other closing words and benediction. The Serenity Prayer. And you may rise if you wish as we say this. God, grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the closing words are from John Denver, from the Rhymes and Reasons song. We believe it is here we must begin to seek the wisdom of children and the graceful way of flowers in the wind. For the children and the flowers are my sisters and my brothers. Their laughter and their loveliness could clear a cloudy day. Like the music of the mountains and the colors of the rainbow, they're a promise of the future and a blessing for today. And the song that I am singing is a prayer to non-believers. Come and stand beside us. We can find a better way. Go in laughter, go in beauty, go in the knowledge of your magnificence. Go in peace until we are together again. Thanks.